The Goddard coin, also known as the main penny, is a very old coin that dates to the time of Norwegian King Olaf Kyrre, who reigned as King Olaf III between 1067 and 1093. One of the silver coins minted to honor his reign somehow found its way to the Goddard Prehistoric Archaeological Site in Brooklyn, Maine, almost 1,000 years ago. It was discovered in 1957 along with some worked copper, pottery remnants, and other evidence of human habitation. The Goddard site has been dated by archaeologists to 1180 to 1235, and historians believe the people who lived there were the ancestors of today's Penobscot Indians. That means that this coin may have been used as metal currency in America some 500 years before the next New England silver coins, including the pine tree shilling, were minted. What was going on that this coin could have been left behind there? In the early medieval period, the northern hemisphere was warmer than it was later on, or even now, and the Vikings were very active in exploring, attacking, and settling all over northern Europe, as far north as Iceland. They ventured to Greenland and then North America, where they colonized a part of Newfoundland in about 1000 CE. Archaeological evidence shows they were working with iron there. They built a forge and an iron slag. The Goddard site in Maine dates to approximately 2 centuries later, and that Norwegian silver coin was minted sometime in the interim. We know that the New England Indian tribes did not use metal coins as currency prior to European settlement. They traded wampum with the English colonists because metal coins were scarce. Given this, there are at least 2 explanations for how the main coin came to be at the Goddard site. This site, located on the northern coast across from what is now Nova Scotia, was part of an early shipping route. The Viking coin eventually circulated via their explorations and found its way into the hands of these Penobscot ancestors as a matter of native trade channels. The Vikings may have left North America by the time these Indians used the coin, but, as we know, coins preserve history better than most human artifacts. The Maine State Museum, where it is now housed, describes the Maine penny as the only pre-Columbian Norse artifact generally regarded as genuine found within the United States. It should come as no surprise that many academics believe that the Maine coin was somehow planted or found its way to that site by other means. In fact, the American Numismatic Society stated that there is no reliable confirmation on the documentation of the Goddard coin, and much circumstantial evidence suggests that someone deliberately trying to manipulate or obfuscate the situation. The Norse coin from Maine should probably be considered a hoax. While the coin itself has been authenticated, its importance to human history and pre-Columbian exploration is not as clear because academia has run into yet another contradiction to their established historical timeline. Man-made or a natural feature, the miles of seemingly neatly stacked, often buried stone that sometimes reach 40 feet in height and transfers above and below the ground of Rockwall County, Texas, are intriguing. On the whole, the vast majority of geologists think that this formation resulted from purely natural processes rather than constructed by a long-lost ancient people. The existence of the walls was first discovered in 1852 when 3 locals were digging a well. Over the years, other similar formations have been found in the area, either already exposed or similarly excavated across a roughly rectangular 20 square miles of Rockwall County. From the beginning, scientists have claimed that the feature is natural, such as when geologist Richard Burleson in 1874 stated that the exposed sections he examined were igneous occurrences. Similarly, after he viewed the formations in 1901, geologist Dr. Robert Hill classified them as clastic sand dikes, while in 1909, Sidney Page agreed with Hill and described the feature as a number of disconnected sandstone dikes. Of course, even experts can disagree, and when archaeologist Count Byron de Perroc examined a portion of the feature in 1925, he concluded it was man-made. Likewise, after architect John Lindsay studied the wall in 1996, he declared that evidence of a prehistoric structure built by man is mounting. Building on Lindsay's opinion, geologist James Sheldon wrote an unsolicited plea for assistance in reevaluation of the Rockwall County, Texas, Rockwall anomaly. In the paper, Sheldon points to the fact that lintelled portals and archways were documented along the walls, and openings on the wall that resemble windows and conduits for water have also been observed, as was a stone-lined passage that led to a vaulted chamber. A more recent analysis of a portion of the wall by forensic geologists in 2013 determined that the feature was made via fluid sand at depth rising up through fractures of the overlying hardened clay, and what looked like mortar between the stone blocks was actually sandy clay from the surrounding rock that had squeezed between the blocks. Sheldon, however, has an answer for that. According to him, the ancient people could have used cast instead of cut stone, meaning a form of prehistoric cement that was formed into blocks. In support, Sheldon noted that other megalithic sites across the ancient world were similarly constructed of cast stone. In China's Qinghai province near Mount Baigong is a mysterious pyramid with 3 caves that lead to a saltwater lake. Local legend speculates that Mount Baigong is an ancient extraterrestrial laboratory. Under the lake bed and on the shore are iron pipes ranging from needle size to 16 inches in diameter that are around 150,000 years old. The rusty pipes reach from deep inside the mountain to a saltwater lake 260 feet away. Many of the hollow pipes are uniform in size and seem to be placed purposefully. The ancient objects are embedded deep enough into the mountain wall and floor to preclude modern human handling. What is baffling Chinese historians is that the area wasn't thought to have been occupied by people until around 30,000 years ago. And according to historians, the humans that were around were nomads, thus making it unlikely that they would have taken the time to install plumbing. That leaves a 120,000-year gap of who was here laying down iron pipe. Many researchers have argued that this site is evidence of paleo-contact, and the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences isn't ruling it out. A researcher at the Academy told Xinhua news agency the pyramid may have been built by intelligent beings. He didn't dismiss the theory that ancient extraterrestrials may be responsible, saying that it's worth looking into, and science would have to determine if there's any truth. The investigation into the pipes began in 2002, with some researchers believing the pipes were left over by a prehistoric civilization whose techniques were later lost to the humans that moved into the area. Around the pipes leading to the area are strangely shaped stones protruding from the ground that are confusing historians even more. Scientists aren't entirely sure what they're made of. While the pipes are believed to be mostly iron, the head of publicity for the local government told reporters that the pipes were analyzed at a local smeltery and 8% of the material could not be identified. The remaining material was a combination of ferric oxide, silicon dioxide, and calcium oxide, which are byproducts of a long interaction between iron and the surrounding sandstone. In 2007, it was discovered that some of the pipes also showed traces of radiation. One final theory is that they aren't even pipes at all, but fossilized tree roots. Fossilized tree roots of similar structure have been found in Louisiana, and scientists found plant matter in some of the pipes, and it looks very similar to tree rings. It's a long-standing geological theory that in certain temperatures and under certain chemical conditions, tree roots can undergo the transformation of soil into rock and in time produce iron formations. So, were these pipes laid down by an unknown ancient civilization or possibly ancient astronauts? As of yet, there is no definitive answer. But one thing is for sure, This location directly contradicts the academic historical paradigm. The Dropa Stones are a series of at least 716 circular stone discs dating back 12,000 years on which tiny hieroglyph-like markings may be found. Each disc measures up to 1 foot or 30 centimeters in diameter and carry 2 grooves originating from a hole in their center in the form of a double spiral. The hieroglyph-like markings are found in these grooves. No record has been found of the stones being displayed in any of the world's museums, and based on this singular fact, the academic world assumes them to be a hoax. But if a record of display is the determinant of a hoax, we would need to include a great many artifacts and structures that mainstream already acknowledges as having existed. It was in 1962 that Sun Nu concluded that the grooves on the disc were actually very tiny hieroglyphs which can only be seen with the use of a magnifying glass. He announced that he had deciphered them into a story that told of a spacecraft that crash-landed near a cave in the Banyan Har Mountains, and that the ship contained the Dropa people who could not fix it and therefore had to adapt to Earth. Further, his research claims that the Dropa people were hunted down and killed by the local Han Chinese for a period. Some Nu noted specifically that one glyph apparently said, "The Dropa came down from the clouds in their aircraft. Our men, women, and children hid in the caves 10 times before sunrise. When at last we understood the sign language of the Dropas, we realized that the newcomers had peaceful intentions." Russian researchers requested the disc for study, and allegedly several were shipped to Moscow. Once there, it is said they were scraped for loose particles and put through a chemical analysis which revealed that they contained large amounts of cobalt and other metallic substances. As recorded in the Soviet magazine Sputnik, a Dr. Shazev describes an experiment where the discs were supposedly placed on a special turntable whereby they were shown to vibrate or hum in an unusual rhythm as though an electric charge was passing through them. More interestingly, several tests with an oscilloscope suggested the Dropa stones may have been once used as electrical conductors. Dr. Shazev was certain that they had been exposed to abnormally hard voltages at some period back in time. In the final chapter of this controversial story, an Austrian engineer named Ernst Wegerer allegedly found 2 Dropa stones in 1974. They were displayed at the Banpo Museum where he happened to be on a guided tour. Based on his own words, the disc perfectly matched the description of the stones from decades ago. According to the director of the Banpo Museum in 1994, Professor Wang Qijun, both the Dropa stones and the manager from 1974 disappeared without a trace just days after Ernst Wegerer took the photos and requested additional information. This was the last time anyone heard anything new about the disc. A medieval-era map discovered in a Turkish palace in 1929 is dated 1513, yet it shows a knowledge of faraway lands well beyond the areas European explorers had traveled, and even shows land features Europeans couldn't possibly have known about in 1513, like the Andes Mountains of South America and the coastline of the Antarctic under the ice. The map, drawn on a piece of gazelle skin, was said to be the work of Piri Reis, a cartographer and admiral in the Turkish army. When drawing up his map, Piri Reis consulted as many as 20 other maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. Antarctica is more than 98% covered in glacial ice and snow. The continent of Antarctica was discovered in 1818, several hundreds of years after the Piri Reis map was drawn, yet it shows a landmass where Antarctica is. This, in and of itself is astonishing. But there are more curiosities. The coastline of this landmass was unfamiliar and therefore deemed inaccurate for hundreds of years until 1961. It was then that Captain Lorenzo Burrows, a captain in the U.S. Air Force Cartography Division, noted that the outline of this southern landmass seemed to accurately depict the coastline of the continent under the ice. How is this possible given the limitations of the surveying equipment in the 1500s? One theory is that the map was drawn using information on older maps that were made so long ago that it was before Antarctica was covered in ice. If that is the case, it is tangible proof of an advanced and much older civilization that predates known civilizations. One odd inaccuracy in the Piri Reis Map is that the tip of South America is attached to Antarctica. One theory to explain this connects to the idea of continental drift. It is theoretically possible for Antarctica to have been attached to South America in the distant past, and that it broke off from South America and formed its own continent after prehistoric seafarers charted this part of the globe. But even if this shift was the last breakage of the original giant landmass, it still would have occurred much longer ago than known human exploration. Piri Reis added a note on the map he created that translates to say, "It is related by the Portuguese infidel that in this spot night and day are at their shortest of 2 hours and at their longest of 22 hours. Due to the tilt of the earth, the winter months in the polar regions receive very little, if any, daylight. During the summertime, however, the sun never sets and the region experiences constant sunlight." Piri Reis indicates that he was given knowledge of this from the Portuguese, but no known Portuguese sailor had ventured that far south in the 1500s. Oddly, Piri Reis positioned this notation near South America much further north than the region affected by the polar winter. It could be that he simply added the notation where there was room. Other experts believe that South America was once further south of its present location and has since drifted north. The coastlines of South America and Africa, as shown on the Piri Reis map, are surprisingly accurate, within a half a degree of longitude. The equator is also in the precise location. Prior to 1790, when the marine chronometer was invented, sailors, navigators, and cartographers had no accurate way to pinpoint a given location, yet the Piri Reis map seems to have done that long before it was possible. Even if navigators did sail down the coast of South America, Africa, and Antarctica, the Piri Reis map should only indicate coastal features. Yet, the Andes Mountains of South America are accurately portrayed on the map. Rivers are even included. The inclusion of these land features means that Piri Reis had knowledge of more than just the coastlines of the continents on his map. Some experts claim that the Piri Reis map is proof that there were advanced civilizations on Earth at much earlier dates than known civilizations. Others claim that the map shows that continental movement occurred more recently than geologists believe. Still, others claim the map is a work of fiction and that it was dumb luck that it has proven to be so accurate. And, of course, there are many researchers who argue that the map is solid evidence of paleo-contact. Discovered by Egyptologist Brian Walter Emery in 1936 at Saqqara, located at the entrance of the Nile Delta and just west of Memphis, the Schist Disk was uncovered while excavating the tomb of Prince Sabu of the First Dynasty, circa 3000 BCE. While uncovering numerous funerary objects from the site, Emery's attention was drawn to an object that he initially defined in his report, The Great Tombs of the First Dynasty, as a container in the form of a schist bowl. Schist are a category of medium-grade metamorphic rocks notable for the preponderance of what are termed lamellar minerals such as micas, chlorite, talc, hornblende, and graphite. Derived from clays and mud, which have passed through a series of metamorphic processes, most schist are mica, but graphite and chlorite are also widely found. Schist is characteristically foliated, meaning the individual mineral grains split off easily into flakes or slabs. Approximately 61 centimeters in diameter, 1 centimeter thick, and 10.6 centimeters in the center, the schist disk was crafted by an unknown method from this very fragile and delicate material, the production of which would confound many artists even today. Resembling a plate or a concave steering wheel of a car, it has 3 cuts or curved shovels that resemble the helix of a boat, and in the center is an opening with a rim that seems to act as an outside receiver of some axis of a wheel or some other unknown mechanism, conceivably a central hub designed to fit onto a pole. Housed in the first wing of the Egyptian Museum of Cairo, the disk is currently labeled an incense container, although there is no evidence or consensus whatsoever to support this assertion. What is certain, however, is that by this early time in history, stone carving was apparently a sophisticated skill far beyond what had ever been imagined. While most every archaeologist feels compelled to offer an opinion as to what purpose the disk served, its futuristic design continues to baffle any Egyptologist who has had the opportunity to study it at any length. Thus, a satisfactory explanation has yet to be provided. Adding to the mystery is the well-documented belief that the introduction of the wheel in Egypt didn't occur until the invasion of the Asiatic group known as the Hyksos at the end of the Middle Kingdom around 1640 BCE. Thus, the questions that arise are, if the schist disk is not a wheel nor modeled after a wheel, what is it? How could a culture who typically used chisels to shape rock have mastered a technique to work such a delicate material to this extraordinary level? And, perhaps most importantly, why would they invest the time and skills needed to create this object unless it served a very important, specific purpose? Be that as it may, the schist disk, which has been dated to at least 3000 BCE, continues to constitute one of the most perplexing Egyptian and ancient mysteries. Indeed, the schist disk is one of the best examples of an out-of-place artifact for those researchers who refuse to believe that such an advanced piece of technology could have been conceived and created without celestial help.